All right, Kevin, we are back, and it's always great to honestly be with you, my man. But to start off our first question today, when you think about your role as a combat cameraman and you think about working with PAO, of course, correspondents, what role do you guys play in presentation of the Marine Corps from a public image point and then from a morale standpoint?
Ooh, that's a better question for a combat correspondent, but I'll answer it as best I can. Combat correspondents are very much responsible for the outward appearance of the Marine Corps, not just in the stories they put out and the photos that they take, but very much so in training the average Marine in how to answer questions asked by press. So if like any just random journalist comes up to you, you will have been briefed as a Marine by some public affairs guy on how to answer questions, what questions to answer, and the fact that you can say, "Hey, I'm not comfortable answering that question." So as far as the appearance of the Marine Corps goes, that is definitely a combat correspondent thing. And now it would be, I guess, under ComStrat, which is, combat camera and PAO that has been combined into whatever it is. Now, I don't fully understand it exactly, but I assume they have both missions carrying on. Um, Whereas I was more operational, and not just operational as in like reconnaissance photos, but operational as in like promotion photos. Like, and I'm not just promotion ceremonies, but like when as a staff NCO and you're going up on a promotion board, you have to have your photo taken standing in boots and utes. It's like it's not even in a dress uniform. You can in the field. You can be in boots and utes or in your Charlies, which is the short sleeve khaki shirt with the green pants, and they want to see you in your uniform at a 45-degree angle toward the camera with your head straight in. So you would be exactly like this with your head straight. And I would have to take those photos with them standing at attention. And they have to set up a little board that has all of their personal information. And when they submit their promotion packages, that photo is on the cover of it. So I take those photos from Marines. So like any fucking staff NCO who is in my unit that is like treating me like crap, I didn't I didn't mess with their stuff, but I didn't help them at all. Like if it was somebody I like, I'm gonna make them look good. I mean, I know all the tricks too, like putting tape on the back of their shirt, like tucking in. So I had this little trick right here because when you stand at attention, your sleeve just gets all bunched up. So what I would do is I would tuck it in for them, and I'd roll it all out and make it perfectly flat, and it would look like that. Yeah, that looks way better, right?
That's clean.
Man, I had all kinds of little tricks, and that is what I mean by operational. If I wasn't forward, I was in the rear doing crap like that for people. There was military passports and I mean, so I was never really thinking about how I'm portraying the Marine Corps outside of my historical documentation, which was very much a pragmatic process. I was never really thinking, okay, do I need to record this? Do I not? It was like, hey, this is happening. This is my job. Yeah, I mean, I was just happy to do it. I've been a photographer, or I had been a photographer since I was 8 years old, and been a patriot my whole life. So I felt like I was doing what I could do in its fullest. And I never really thought about appearances like that. There were times where I had to do like crime scenes and stuff like that, where a service member had committed a crime and I had to go, photograph the scene. That that was different, because I know those photos aren't really going anywhere, but I also like it was a sensitive thing. So, you have to go into it with your sensitivities, I guess. Um, yeah, I answered that question as much as I possibly can. I never really thought about the appearance or how I was portraying the Marine Corps because that really it wasn't my job, and when it was, I didn't really care. I just wanted to put out what was. I mean, yeah, honestly, I'm not a beat around the bush kind of like.
Nope.
It's just I don't bullshit like that. I just want to put out what I see and what is. I think
That's
if
true journalism.
it's true, it is, and if people want a dose of reality, they should get a dose of reality. That's why I don't take a lot of photos in my personal time, and I didn't. I went to Petra in Jordan, this ancient city. If you watch Indiana Jones when he's coming up in that huge rock wall with the entrance, that's real. I've been there. It's nuts. I didn't take one photo while I was there, not one. If you want to see it, you fucking go to Petra. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to put out my own perspective. I don't want to put out my opinion. I wanted to put out what happened. And what happened, I really can't worry about how I'm presenting the Marine Corps, portraying Marines. I just wanted to put out what it was.
Well, and going on that statement of what it was, what it is, that's documenting history. That is keeping fact from an elongated version of the truth that somehow gets, manipulated or twisted. And it makes me wonder, going forward, that how could AI, as we advance, impact public image of the military on future combat operations, deployment, or on the next global war that will be televised via social media? How will AI play a role there of possibly portraying crimes or possibly portraying events that didn't happen or people. You get what I'm saying here.
Look at look at the White House's Twitter right now. That's all I'm gonna say. You can see how AI is portraying crime. You can see how it's portraying enemies of the state. You can see how it's portraying the military. I watched a draft dodger dump feces on people out of an oddly shaped F-16 because of AI. You know what I'm saying? Like it is what it is, man. It's gonna be really dangerous coming up soon. I watched that smear campaign that came out about Mamdani and all the criminals in New York, the criminal citizens, and somehow they were all black, like like they're all people of color, and like they're putting on masks to rob stores and shit. And it's just, I mean, if you showed me that 15 years ago, I would never have guessed that was AI. They look like real fucking people.
Yep.
It's really scary, dude. I would not have thought to look at their fingers and see if any abnormalities. I wouldn't have thought to look inside their ear. Any of the tells that we know, as members of this society in 2025, I would not have known. Um, I think it's a slippery slope. I think as someone who wanted to portray what is, it's dangerous to use as media. It's not media, it's a tool, and it should be used as such. It should not be used in the news whatsoever. It shouldn't be used as news or to create news. It itself is not news. It is a tool, just like any of those you see on my wall right behind me.
Amen.
Um, and that's it. It's just like anything. And here I'm gonna go radical for a second. Just like anything in capitalism, it's just been bastardized. They've sought the profits. You can. It's funny. They're saying follow the money when the money always just leads back to them. But that's it. You just follow the money, and you'll see exactly why anything is making it popular in this country, and that's why AI is making it popular because it's replacing you and me right now. Even as an engineer and as an educator, like we're obsolete, bro.
Dude, 100%, man.
Yeah, they're getting rid of us. So yeah, that's
Well,
AI is really dangerous, and as far as the portrayal or presentation of the military through AI, I think that's something North Korea would do. I don't think it's anything America of the past would do.
nope. 100%. And it's like I think about it too, with like a year ago of where AI was with what I was like experimenting with and like Chat GPT and some movie making sources of what it was capable of to now and just how more realistic it's already advanced in a year where there's less abnormalities. Like I've seen it through student projects I've had work on, and that's made me ponder our conversations, with your job working as a combat cameraman in your role in 2005. What's that going to look like in 2035 in an extent with where AI could come into play? I just find that fascinating, but more so on the terrifying side in itself.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of what I did, as far as like aerial reconnaissance is done by drones now. And those drones are piloted by humans for now. So, so not only was I replaced somewhat by a robot, I'm going to be, that robot is going to be replaced, the pilot of that robot, I should say, is going to be replaced by a program. It's like levels it's an onion, man. We're just going to keep peeling and peeling. And, I don't think we're gonna like what we find when we get to the core.
Maybe Terminator had a point.
Yeah,
Maybe we
yeah.
should have listened and watched. Listen to what happens there with old Arnold. Well, and echoing off of that, um, and going back to your job as a combat cameraman, I wanted to talk about the day that you were wounded, if you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And break down that day. That's one of the events we have briefly talked about, but not in detail. So on the day that the IED happened, take us through the entire day. What was going on in the operation?
Well, it was just another day, honestly. I was on a mounted patrol, so it wasn't an operation. It was just normal day. So when I wasn't on an operation, typically what I would do is I'd go to the COC every single morning. I'd wake up, I'd go to the COC, I would look at the patrol board because they all pretty much had a patrol board, and they'd have which squads were going out at what time and what part of the AO they were going to be patrolling. And I'd pick either my favorite or like the hottest zone or whatever I felt like that day, like whatever I based my decision on, flipping a coin, I don't know. And I ended up on that mounted patrol. And a mounted patrol with LAR is basically, so there's on top of the LAV that I was in are two hatches that open outward. And I was in what's called they call LAVs pigs. That's what they refer to them as. And so that's what I'll say from now on. But I was in the logistics pig, which is it's where the corpsmen and all of the supplies go for the squad. And the highest rank typically is in the log pig as well. So I was in with a gunny. A gunny was he was in charge of the pig that I was in, and we were going on a mounted patrol through Rutba. And mounted patrol versus unmounted is we're in the vehicles, so we stay in the vehicles and we pop up. Even the LAVs that you see with the Bushmaster turret on the top, if you look right behind the turret, there's two hatches, one on either side that open up, and the scouts will pop up right there and stand there with their rifles. So that's what we were doing, and we were going through Rutba, and there's one part where it's a dried out riverbed, with which is called a wadi, and there's a dirt kind of where they had filled it in with dirt and put culverts in, and we were driving over that to get over the wadi, and we got over it. I remember we were about 2/3 of the way over the wadi, and that's when everything went white, and I kind of just blacked out for a few minutes. And I remember seeing a flash and feeling heat. And what happened was I was those two hatches that opened outward. I was on this side, and I was standing with my rifle on the hatch because they open and just kind of flop there. And there's a lock that locks them down. So I had my rifle on it. And when the blast happened, it was 155 artillery shells, and they're directional. The blast is, and when they went off, they were buried. We were driving here, and they were buried, so the blast went this way. And when the blast went out, it hit the door and closed the door on me. And the door is the only reason I'm here. This much of me exists. If that door hadn't been there, like the blast would have caught me full on. But there's this 2-inch thick steel door just sitting in front of me, and when it closed, it hit me and knocked me back, and it took me back and caved in my Kevlar right here. There was a big dent in it, and it was one of the lightweight Kevlar helmets. And I kind of came to as they were dragging me out of the back of the vehicle. I don't know. I think I was out for maybe a minute and a half, something like that. And I don't even know that I was out. Sometimes you're kind of just dazed, and your eyes are open. I don't remember opening my eyes. I remember all of a sudden I could see because everything was moving and I was being dragged out of the vehicle. I was laying on my back on the corpsman, and I fell on him, so he broke my fall, and they dragged me out. So this was in early '05, I think. It was March of 2005, and traumatic brain injuries weren't really an injury yet. I mean, they were happening right and left, but it wasn't like they knew how to handle it. In the past, in every single war, if you got blown up like that, you died. For us, we had so much armor, so much equipment on us, so much between us and whatever the blast was, whatever was creating it. There was so much protection that we were living through it, but we all had all of a sudden broken backs, traumatic brain injuries, both, just ruptured organs, just all kinds of really odd injuries that we didn't see in the past because the people that had them died.
Right.
We weren't treating them. So when I got blown up, they woke me up. A corpsman checked me out. He was like, "Yo, your right ear's fucked, but I can get you home maybe, or probably back to Germany for a couple months, and then you'll come back." And I was like, "Well, I don't want to do that. Yeah, like I don't want to leave. I honestly, I didn't want to leave." And so I was just like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And he kept me up for 24 hours. I had to stay up for 24 hours. They treated it like a concussion, honestly. That's exactly how I was treated in the moment. So I stayed up for 24 hours there at the little BAH they had, the little medical center, in a tent with air conditioning. It had air conditioning, so I didn't really mind it too much. And I kind of just sat there and watched movies and stuff with them because the corpsman had a little laptop playing South Park and a couple other things. So yeah, I stayed up for 24 hours and then finally I went to sleep and I slept for like fucking 12 hours. And then I went back to Al Assad not very shortly after that. I told them what happened and they were like, "Okay, well, we're gonna get you out of here." And I think they were pretty much done with me by that time in Rutba anyway. I kind of overstayed my welcome. Not like they wanted to get rid of me, but like when I went down to Rutba, they told me, "Hey, you'll be there for a month," and I think I was there for 2.5 months. And by the time it was time for me to go, it was like way past time for me to get out of there. And that was it. It wasn't until many years and a couple deployments later that I found out that I had scarring in my brain. I had an incident happen that I'm not going to go too far into, but only because it was like extremely embarrassing. But there was combat simulation training, and I had an incident. No one was harmed, and I didn't do anything like against anyone necessarily, but it was an incident nonetheless, and it sent me to mental health. And after mental health, I talked to the person there for a little while, and they were like, "Well, like Kevin, you've been through some shit. I don't need to tell you that you have PTSD. I think Homer told everybody thousands of years ago that you have PTSD." um, so it's not a secret, but I don't think that's all you have. I had told him about getting blown up and how I felt about it and what it meant to me and everything. And he was kind of like, "Okay, we're gonna send you to neuropsych. We're gonna get you checked out." And they did an MRI, and that's when they found the scarring in my brain. I have it here, and then I have it here as well, because when you get hit, it obviously causes damage, but then your brain sloshes. And when it sloshes, it causes a secondary. So I have one opposite. It's like if you can go straight through, that's where they are. And that's the gist of it. I mean, it just seemed like another day. And that was February. And I was there for, I mean, another almost, I mean, wait, no, I'm sorry. That was March. I had gotten there at the beginning of February. I stayed in Rutba until April, the beginning of April, and this was a 14-month deployment. I'd
Yeah.
only been there for a month and a half, 2 months when it happened. So I mean, I went through the rest of that deployment, and then the rest of my Marine Corps career until they found the scarring, and they were actually, as time went by, the injuries became more common, especially with like Afghanistan and Sangin, there was IEDs like crazy. So these guys were coming to Wounded Warriors when I was there, like right and left. And the TVI groups that we had there were big. There were like 15, 20 of us in there with all like the exact same brain injuries. But mine had healed a little bit more. So they say the difference between an unhealed, this is what they told me back then, the difference between an unhealed TBI and a healed TBI is nothing. Like you can't fix any of it. There's no fixing it. You have to relearn. So that's basically what I did at Wounded Warriors for about a year and a half. And it's strange that I was a decent, excuse me, I was a decent Marine, but I had a fucking brain injury the whole time. What's that say about us crayon eaters, man? Like, like I was sitting here like deploying and shit. I had guns, man. I had like grenades and shit on me, and that said, I was way better Marine when I was deployed than I ever was in garrison. When I got bored, man, I got bored, and I chased adrenaline however I could, whether it was going fast in cars or going after girls in Swansburg. Man, I did a lot. I got in a lot of trouble when I was at Lejeune, especially when I was in the rear. But when I was deployed, man, I was a shit hot Marine, if I might say so myself. But yeah, that was the gist of it. That's how I got injured, and that was the day. It was just another day. It's not like I remember waking up. I don't remember brushing my teeth that day. I'm sure I did. I hope I did. I wasn't. I was 20 years old. I turned 21 later. Late. I think I turned 21 the next day. It was like a day or two before my birthday. Um, and that whole time is kind of a blur. One, because I had a brain injury, and two, I was at war. I mean, like I was always doing something. I was always getting blown up, shot at. It was just a mess. All that time is just I don't know. I don't know how. I could read testimonials and I've watched documentaries that are so detailed about all these events. Like, were people's brains just different back then? Because I don't remember half the shit these guys are talking. I think they all must have had diaries and journals because like we didn't. I don't know what I like. I don't know how I felt about shit on whatever day. I don't. I have no idea. There are events I remember. There are times I remember. There are emotions that I remember. But if you ask me what I did on the day I got blown up, man, I got blown up. You know, I remember the next day, or 2 days after. It was the day after the next day, having to go back out and take photos. I may have I told you about that kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to go back out and take photos of that. I remember that. I remember the smells and the sights. I remember that shit. But the rest just seems so unimportant in the moment. Uh, it's not something I mentally noted.
Well, to build off of that, you know, you're you earn a Purple Heart through that. Now, does that Purple Heart come with a ceremony on the deployment, or is that back in Lejeune, or is that later once the TBI was diagnosed?
That's once the TBI was diagnosed. That's
Got it.
once I got to Wounded Warriors. So in '05, you did not get a Purple Heart for a TBI. If you weren't hurt, then you didn't get a Purple Heart. There's so many people who were blown up before. I would say pre '07. Pre '07, there's so many guys with TBIs that were blown up who don't have Purple Hearts because it wasn't pushed for. I was, dare I say, fortunate enough to retire in 2011 and the very end of 2011, and they were just starting to push it. All the different branches have different standards, and they were starting to retroactively award them in the Marine Corps because the Navy had slacked on theirs so much. I remember there was a corpsman at Wounded Warrior who had never deployed, and he had had an accident in boot camp, and he was there for PTSD, and they had given him a Purple Heart for his accident that he had in boot camp, which had nothing to do with the enemy or anything, but he was in service of his country, I guess. So I don't understand how he's in the fraternal order, but he is. And I'm not gonna like discredit the guy or try to devalue it. He was awarded it by the government, so be it. So I think the Marine Corps was trying to kind of help them justify their decision on doing that by going back and retroactively getting a bunch of people. And that's how they got me. I actually had a case manager when I was at Wounded Warriors who told me all of it. And he was like, "I'm going to put you in for it." And I was like, "Okay." I didn't really care. I was so disillusioned and jaded by it. Yeah, I was just ready to get the fuck out. Yeah, I I truly did not care, and it's not even. Um, I'm kind of ashamed to admit it. Just 1 second. Let me get this light.
No, brother, you do it. Do what you got to do, man.
As I was saying, I'm kind of ashamed to admit it because it's not like just a rebellious youth kind of thing, or I don't know. You know how it's cool to hate wherever you're at. You know what I mean? It's just
Oh, dude,
being that.
100%. I hate my
Yeah,
hometown.
I think everybody knows what I'm
Yeah,
talking about on some level. It
I get
wasn't
it.
it wasn't any of that. I was disillusioned because I was told that I couldn't be a Marine anymore. But Wounded Warriors, man. fucked me up. I've told you about all this. Like
Yeah.
it really fucked us all up. Like there were so many people there who got NJP'd and court-martialed and kicked out of the Marine Corps after getting fucked up in Afghanistan or Iraq, because they were smoking weed, or like there were guys there doing heroin. And I'm not saying, like, hear me out. You know, this isn't like a bunch of fucking strung out guys. These are guys, one of them, I'm obviously not gonna say any names, and I don't want to say too much that identifies, but he had gotten messed up in Afghanistan. And when he got back, they were doing a surgery and they fucked up his surgery and he got staph infection. And he had to get a fucking PICC line to his heart. Like
Jesus.
he was on pain meds for years. He was there for years, fucking years. Imagine being there for years in this situation. And pain meds didn't work for him anymore. Where do you go from there?
Yep.
And it's not like he was the only one. You know, there were guys I saw show up at Wounded Warriors, and not it wasn't just heroin, man. There were guys I saw show up there, just normal looking Marine, you know, big stocky dude coming in all proud. And by the time they leave, whether it's because they get kicked out or they manage to retire, they've lost 40 pounds because they're fucking snorting bath salts every day because they're just trying to escape reality. And the reality isn't like, I'm living with PTSD and this is crazy. It's, hey, I have some PTSD and you guys are treating me like utter fucking shit. Like you're treating me like a child. You know, I'm a warrior who is wounded. Like treat me with respect. Treat me like an adult. Don't fucking pump me full of medications. I was at 9 medications when I left the Marine Corps. 9 fucking medications. Nobody in the world should be on 9 medications, and all of them were mental health medications. It was like an SSRI, and then something to counter this side effect of the SSRI, and then they had this antidepressant, but it had these 3 symptoms. So you don't want that. Let me give you this med, this med, and this med to counter these 3 symptoms, and then we're gonna have to counter all that because you're gonna have bloody diarrhea for the rest of your life. So we need to give you this for your bloody diarrhea. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like that's what they put us through. It's a ringer, man. War is a fucking racket. It really is in every sense of the word. Even those of us who are wounded and end up going to the glorious Wounded Warrior Battalion are just pumped full of fucking pharmaceuticals. You know, like who's benefiting from this? Follow the money. You know what I'm saying? It goes to the same people every single time. And you know, they would argue that, well, I'm just going to give you the generic med so that you're not having to you deal with your moral dilemma. And it's like, I know who makes the generic med. It's the same fucking people. You know what I'm saying? Like they just put a different stamp on it. Like it's a fucking racket through and through. I don't even remember what the question was, man.
Dude, don't even have to. This
They
is
pissed me
brilliant.
off so much.
Well,
I love that it exists. I love that people were taken out of Walter Reed. The place was like dilapidated and falling apart at the time. When Wounded Warriors started on Camp Pendleton, it was put in this little shithole quarantine building. It was bad for a long time, and they put all this money into it. The Hope and Care Center, the brand new barracks that opened right before I got there. I moved into a brand new barracks room with brand new furniture. It was nice, man. But you pay the price for it. You pay the price for it. And a lot of these guys who had their TBIs and their loss of a limb, or like guys who went blind. There was an EOD guy who went blind, and I would walk him out to the smoke deck because he grabbed the back of my arm. I'd got him out there, you know, and he had his cigarette, and I got him back into the barracks. And once he got into the barracks, he was okay. He's like, all right, I can find where I'm going from here, you know. But yeah, it's these guys, you
well,
know,
you know,
they're all
when
going
we
through
talked
it.
about it the first time, and you said it now, but it's like regardless of the wound, whether blind, a TBI yourself, paraplegic, amputees, you're Marines. You want to be treated like Marines. You want to be handled and respected like Marines.
But we're
And
told we can't be
yep,
Marines. We're not allowed weapons. We're not allowed to be with our units. We're segregated essentially. Sad, man. It hurts. It's necessary. It's necessary, but it hurt. Didn't make it feel good.
well, and from your standpoint and your experience and going forward in the future, or even just your take on it, how would you like to have seen Wounded Warrior handled differently when you had your experience with Wounded Warrior?
I think that a lot of money could be saved sending us home. Let us go through our treatment at home. You know, you don't have to release us from service. Like that's the whole thing is that we can't release you from service until you're treated. Let us get treated. Let us get treated with our family. Let us get treated with our friends. Let us get treated in a place that we're comfortable. You know, don't let some fucking reservist gunny come treat me like a boot because you give him like this big dick power trip over a bunch of wounded. Like they treated me like, dude, bro, when I say they treated me like a boot, I'm not just exaggerating. Like they treated us like boots. They made us like cover an alignment, like keeping us until fucking 1800 when we're supposed to get off at 16:30 just cuz, you know, like somebody gave them attitude or something like that. I mean, they would threaten to send us back to our units constantly. It's not that we got wounded and we deserve to be at Wounded Warriors. It's a privilege. And a bunch of reservists who were activated to come and be our platoon sergeants and shit would not let us fucking forget it. It is a privilege for you to be here. I will send you back to your unit. Like, okay, go ahead. They don't treat me like a fucking boot. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, and
so
I'm sure
that
this
that was
this
the existence there.
well, I'm sure it went through your minds too, because I talked to a friend of mine about this, of people without a car, no combat experience at all, treating you like a piece of shit, or treating you realistically in a boot, just because they have, X amount of time and grade, or like so many stripes on their sleeve, and meanwhile they haven't even set foot in country, let alone realistically experienced anything that you guys have. And I know that has to be a factor too.
It is and it isn't. It's really it. The situation dictates. You know, we're all Marines. I'll respect the rank. You know, I'll respect that rank. It doesn't matter what stack they have over. You know, I don't really care. Until they're trying to pull that rank. Once they try to pull that rank, that's an issue. So um when I was at the Mew, I was known. I got in trouble at the Mew, but they all knew that McCall had he was there, man. You don't fuck with McCall. So even when I got in big fucking shit, I mean, honestly, when I got in big fucking shit, it helped because they were all like, "Hey, this is a squared away Marine. Like he's been there, done that. Like we spent X amount of money. You know, we've invested this much money getting this guy trained up on all of his with all of his experience. We don't want to let him go. He has so much that he can give the Marine Corps still. Like we need to keep him an appropriate rank. We need to not slaughter him. We want other Marines to see like experience counts for something. You know, that's essentially what it was. So when I would walk around there for whatever reason, I would be in my Charlies or my Alphas. The car people saw it. You know, they noticed that shit. People that might otherwise say something to me or treat me poorly, if I have a car on me, like in my uniform and I'm currently wearing, they won't say a word to me. They shy away from me. I saw it plenty of fucking times. I could seriously, as an E3 or E4, talk shit about an E6 or E7 without their car. And there's nothing they could say. You know, like what would they say? So when I was again at the Mew, I was in E4 and I was sitting there I didn't know he was right behind me. It was one of those situations, but I was making fun of the staff sergeant because he had like, I don't want to rip on because it's peacetime Marine Corps and they all got different standards now, but this fucker had like three fucking ribbons. And I was ripping on him hard. And my gunny was there and like my boot was there. And then the ops chief was there. He's a gunnery sergeant, and then there were the staff. I like all these staff and COs, and I'm a corporal just talking shit about this staff sergeant. Like, oh, this motherfucker. You guys should show him this and tell him this is what a real Marine should look like. I was like going off on him, and he's standing right behind me. And I turned around just to see him looking at the ground, beat red, turn around and walk away all sad. You know, like what could he say in that moment? But if I'd have been in camis, he would have lit me up. 100%. It's just there's some mystique about that ribbon, man. When people see it, you know, as long as the blue's on the left, when I see the red on the left, when people have it upside down, then then I get to make fun of it. You don't get respect. But when I see it, I notice it. When I see that people have it, I notice it. It's as recognizable as a Purple Heart. I think it's more recognizable in the Marine Corps. Or no, it's just as recognizable as the Purple Heart and the The Medal of Honor. I think people look for it. It's those three. Those are the three you would notice in the Marines. Because in the Army they have their badge and all that other stuff. Um, they have their combat badge. But yeah, it's noticeable. I don't mind getting chewed out by somebody without it, but once they start talking about how I'm a bad Marine, that's when it comes up. Okay, like watch yourself. Like you can chew me out, but pick your battles, choose your words well. Um, Most of the time after I got my car though, I didn't really get chewed out. Like I said, when I got in trouble after Iraq, I didn't, no one ever chewed me out. They were always super chill with me. They were like, McCall, what the fuck, But it was never like, oh, you piece of shit. They didn't do that to me because I mean, that was basically where I was. I did another deployment with them after that, but that's that stack that I show you. That's where I was at when I was there. So yeah, they never messed with me. I think the lower rank you are, if you have a car, the less chance you have of getting fucked with. Nobody's gonna mess. If you're a PFC with a combat action ribbon, nobody will mess with you ever. I will respect it. I'll stand at parade rest for a PFC with a car because they were a Lance Corporal at one point. There's a great story there. Um, so yeah, it does matter, and it's something that we noticed. But I think, when I first joined, no one had a car. I joined in January of '02. Like it's like 3 months after 9/11. No one had a combat
Right.
action ribbon. If they did, it was from like Kosovo or yeah, like something like that, Desert Storm. None of us had it. And now I think it's about the same. The guys that did, it was like 2012 Afghanistan, like, and I think that's about when it kind of died down. When was the evacuation was 29? Oh my
Don't
God,
21?
21.
Yeah. I think it was
Oh, we
21.
shouldn't be recording this part.
Edit,
But
edit.
up until the evacuation, even there wasn't a lot going on. There was people getting the combat action ribbons, obviously, but there wasn't a lot of action. So, now here we are, like however many years later. I should have been more ambiguous like that from the start. However many years we are later, I seriously doubt that most people have a combat action ribbon. I think it was even when I was in Iraq, it was like 1% of us got combat action ribbons. It was like such a low percentage of service members in theater even see combat.
Well,
It's not like we all just go and see it constantly.
it's like the same for Vietnam, in many ways. And it was
Yeah.
2021, by the way. I just pulled it up while we're
Okay.
talking. So we're right. So we can leave that in there. Um, but because I was talking with Vietnam veterans, and they said, in a similar way, like so many people were in country, but yet only a certain small percentage actually
Yeah.
was seeing combat. But you mentioned the three main ribbons there, and it's interesting because of the GWOT guys I've talked to, all of them have mentioned the first thing is that I was proud I got my car. That was what mattered to me. Nothing
Yeah.
else mattered. Friend of mine with 2.9 said that. Friend of mine with 2.2, 1.1, yourself. And I find that incredibly intriguing because even like browsing, Reddit pages, we're just in conversation. It's like, I got my car to prove that I was there, that I saw something, or that I was a part of, these large operations, small and big firefights. Continuing that though, going forward with your takes that we have politically in our conversations that we've had in general, where do you see the next big fight or the next similar fight perhaps with deployments for the Marine Corps within the next 5 years?
It's not going to be our war. Well, I mean, they've made it perfectly clear that we're not going to be fighting our own wars anymore. We're going to be fighting other people's wars. Um, I don't see us going into Venezuela. That's a military action against the government, whereas the cartels are not. They're not even a de facto government. The drug runners, they don't run the government. They don't run the country. They don't run trade. They don't run any of that. So it's not like we can go invade Venezuela. If we do, it's going to be really fucking stupid. But what I've always been afraid of is, and I'm going to try my best not to go on a rant here, but what I've been afraid of is we're going to fight Israel's wars for them. And Israel has a lot of, I'm not going to say enemies because they don't have a lot of enemies. They have a lot of targets. I think I said one word and it said 1,000, you know. They have targets that they have deemed um worthy of destruction, and that destruction is going to be by us. You know, they call us their puppets. Like they talk about it. Like it's well known that whatever BB wants, we do. And Iraq and Afghanistan might or might not be proof, depending on how learned you are. I will say that it won't be one of our own. The next one, I hope it's not the last one. As stupid as that is to say, I hope it's not the last war. I hope the last war that the Marine Corps gets to fight will be a justified one. It will be an honorable one, will be a noble war. Whether it's for the Constitution, whether it's for humanity or for freedom, you know, for something good, man. Because God damn it, like what we did wasn't for anything good. We didn't help anyone. We helped people short term by building a couple schools and giving them food and water because we had disrupted their food and water. Um, Corporate wars aren't the way to go, man, and people are going to stop enlisting after a while. Right now, people are enlisting for the reasons I did, off of the grace of our predecessors. You know, they left us with that sense of nobility and pride. They left us with that sense of service and duty. And you know, I read something the other day, and it was really interesting, and it was talking about warriors and how I think it was actually about the Department of War, but it was the difference between warriors and what we actually are. And you know, since I joined, they talked about how we're all warriors and we're fighting. We're warriors. We're going to go out as warriors, and
Go
we're
slay
blah
the
blah.
dragon.
Yeah, warriors are barbarians. Yeah, they fight for nothing. They fight for greed or land or just basic shit. You know, soldiers fight for a cause. Soldiers fight for reason, fight for justice, fight for people, fight for their people, fight for good. Soldiers have discipline. Soldiers have a cause. Soldiers have reason and logic behind them. Warriors do not. And the glorification of warriors has been the toxic fucking element within the military for the past however long. I don't know how long this has been going on with the fucking fire dragon and all this shit. That's not what we should be. I know Marines don't like being called soldiers, and you know, for the longest time we were the soldiers of the sea and all that. You know, whatever. Fuck all that for a minute. Having discipline, having a cause, and swearing oaths is what separates us from warriors. You know, those barbarians from wherever thousands of years ago, they didn't fight for anything other than bloodlust, you know, like greed to
Rape and
steal the
pillaging.
women from the
Yep.
villages, to take their loot and their crops. You know, that those are warriors. That's warriors. Vikings were warriors, and people like to romanticize Vikings, but they raped and fucking pillaged, raped and pillaged. Like those words aren't good, fucking idiots. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on for a second. That's warriors. We are soldiers, and we were soldiers, and we should still be soldiers, and we should think like soldiers. It's dangerous for us to think otherwise. We don't. Yeah.
Well,
So
I mean, going off of that, when you talk about the differentiation there, that is the difference between a that God, if it's very cliche, that is the difference between standing for a cause and a constitution that prevents war crimes or genocide from taking place. Once you start chipping away at that concept of rules, of discipline, you open up a can of worms that I don't think that people are fully ready to understand, or civilians, or I guess the average American populace is ready to understand how easy that can of worms is able to open in a time of war. You and I have talked about that humanity chipping away and that discipline that comes into play with what you yourself and the fellow Marines were able to rein back in, but you take away that concept of rules, disciplines, what we are here for, and it's like, well, we are warriors now. We are here to kill. That is where things go south very, very fast.
yeah, absolutely. And no, that's not what we are. You know, in boot camp we're taught about the good and the bad. They teach us about the My Lai massacre in detail in boot camp for a reason. They want us to know better. They want us to use reason and logic and see them as humans. The dangerous thing is that in being a warrior, you dehumanize your
Yes.
enemy. Um, in order to dehumanize your enemy, you first have to dehumanize yourself. Once you dehumanize yourself, there's no going back. Like once you get back home, you're here. That's how you end up where we're at, man. So many people seeing empathy as evil or weakness, people seeing humanity as weakness, people claiming to be Christians and not wanting to feed the poor or like help single mothers or like feed children or like Christian values like loving your neighbor and I could go on and on and on and on. Um Jesus was a pretty rad dude, and I'm an atheist, man. I'm like, I love Jesus. Like he's badass. I wish Christians thought so, you know. As sad as that is to say, well, I guess they're what is it, Mammonites now? They're not even Christians. They're not a yeah, I'm going on a different rabbit hole, man. I'm sorry.
Bro, don't apologize, but it does bring up a point though, in many ways of where we have come. I think about the United States that I was raised on in the 90s. I know you know that United States. What we heard from our grandparents, the local people around us, to seeing it change, it is alarming in many
Yeah.
ways. And I do worry. I worry about the political state of this country. I worry about the military, not what the military is capable of, but where our military is going to be sent. I have former students right now who I keep in contact with that are actively serving in the Army and the Marines, and they constantly send me memes of, born too early to deploy to the Middle East, born too late to deploy to the Middle East, born just in time to deploy to the Middle East. And, it's a true meme. You've seen it on Reddit,
Yeah.
but it's also a sad meme too. We talked about this in our first or second interview. How many more people will die in the Middle East that have been killing each other for thousands of years? Like, realistically, when will America honestly go back to that? And, like you said, with going and fighting someone else's war, it really is only a matter of time before another deployment or another operation of some kind takes as elements of our military back out there to the sandbox.
What's dangerous is in the past it's always been the lobbyists pushing lobbyists from Raytheon or Lockheed or any of the people I bought stock in. Um, Lobbyists coming and paying off politicians to vote in a certain way so that we can enter these wars. What's problematic is those lobbyists are now in our government, like all of them. All of our fucking government is lobbyists. Like, really step back and look at it. All of them have an agenda. All of them are owned by a company or own companies or both, all of them are heavily invested in defense contracting. All of them are heavily invested in you name it.
Yep.
Like they are the military infrastructure. So it's kind of a fucked up situation. We're not fighting any more wars for the Constitution. The oath to the Constitution is a formality now. I take it seriously. I love the Constitution, and I believe it should be changed. That's what amendment means.
Yep.
But it should be done the right way. Like the president signing an executive order doesn't mean shit to me. Congress, the Senate, the House, everything, like our representatives, that means everything to me. The Constitution means everything to me. And I will fully and and totally always, excuse me, support and defend the Constitution. But I feel like I have met more and more veterans from my generation as well on who do not take that seriously whatsoever. They could give two fucks about about the Constitution. They do not care. They care about their own personal gain. They care about their own religion. They say they care about their own rights, but they're willing to give them up to take away rights from others, which is like strange all on its own. It's just a really contradictory thing.
Amen.
Anyone anyone who says they are anything other than a constitutionalist these days, I question, if you come and tell me that you're a Republican or a Democrat, or even when I say I'm a socialist, I know for a fact I told you that I'm a constitutionalist far before I told you that I'm a socialist,
Yes, you
because
did,
I
my
am.
friend.
And I think everyone should do that. I think that in itself is more profound and more meaningful than any political party I could loud to you. And it should be. It's sad, man. It's sad where our military is going, because I think I look at these Gen Z kids and I had a lot of hope for them. If I had had a kid, they would be Gen Z. Like I'm 41, man. Like I could have a 21-year-old kid right now. It's
Good.
that's not unheard of. Shit, I could have a 25-year-old from the South and no one would think twice. But it's sad because I see how much and I don't blame them necessarily, but I do see how much they've fallen for the sad, disgusting side of capitalism. Like they follow Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan and shit like that. Like why are they listening to these people? Like these are the fucktards our parents told us about. Yeah, I'm sorry for using such bad language, but god damn, like what how else can I explain these people? Like it, I don't
Man,
understand, man. And our military is always going to be ours. It will always be ours. What's done with it is not necessarily their fault. But anyone who enlists now, while this is being done with it, I question. I really question. It's just like anyone who's joining ICE. Like I have a lot of questions for you, motherfucker. like first off, when did you leave? Like Patriot Front and Proud Boys. Like when was it, friend? But second, like, did you have to swear an oath to the Constitution? And how do you feel about breaking that oath on your first fucking day? Like it's disgusting, man. I think that the military is a thing of the past. I really do. They're selling off Camp Pendleton right now. Like they're shooting rockets over our freeway. Yeah, like they're ripped down the East Wing. They don't give a shit about anything, man. Um, Next year will tell
I
if
will.
the midterms, man. That'll tell us whether our military is going to survive or not.
Well,
Because right now they're going to be an attack force. That's all they are. And within the United States, we have the ICE, which is it just got $700 million more funding than the Marine. They already had a bigger budget than the Marine Corps. It's just like, whoa, what the fuck?
yep. I mean, going back to this political conversation that we're having, and if I lose viewers, fuck it. I truly don't care. You brought up the good point about our congressmen and women who are literally paid for. They have all of this funding and all these connections. I think about the intents of the founding fathers, and I understand a lot of their intents and the concept of having, wealthy aspects there, having well-read and educated men in power. Where now we're in this day and age. When's the last time we did have an American with no personal gain that was well read and educated, understood the Constitution, that was a normal dude or woman like me and you, come from an everyday walk of life that made it there for the good to make change? When's the last time we saw that, man?
To be a president?
No, just in
Oh, just
Congress.
in Congress. Got me, man.
Dude, like,
Credence. They said it best. I ain't no senator's son, man. I mean, it's been around forever. If you go back to Rome, like you can read
yep,
the Greeks wrote about it, man. There's privilege. It's always been there. Our president is proof of it. Like, there were so many people who ran to Canada and had to be pardoned after the war. He just paid. He just paid. He paid a
live bone
doctor.
spurs.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. How do you okay. Mhm. How many people went with bone spurs? You know what I'm saying? Because they were poor. Yeah, that's just how it's always been. That's how it always will be. And there's nothing we can do about that.
Nope,
Um, as far as how many have made it, honestly, so JD Vance did not grow up rich.
nope.
He was very much middle class. Dare I say even lower middle class from his own account. He went to Yale. He went and became the vice president of the United States. Granted, he said Trump was a Nazi a couple months before he started working for Trump. um, but but to say that everyone there did not come from humble beginnings would be a falsity. Like a lot of them did come from humble beginnings, but the problem is a lot of them that did come from humble beginnings sold out. And I don't mean they sold out in like an edgy kind of way. I mean they sold out their souls. They sold out their own people. They sold out their families. JD Vance sold out his wife and and her family in this case. There's a lot of hate against Indian Americans right now. I'm very aware of it because my wife
Yep.
is she's not Indian American. She is an Indian immigrant, and it's really fucked up. The things that she's coming to show me all the time. It's just like, look what these people are saying on Instagram. She's much more into social media than I am, so I don't see a lot of that. But I do still see plenty of articles about the attacks on I'm not even going to go into the into everything happening right now because there's so many conservative people of South Asian descent being attacked by their own party right now that it's just like, what'd you think was going to happen there, buddy?
Well,
Like it was only a matter of time.
I and I was telling some former students this that came to visit me the other day, like how far I have seen this country change. And maybe it was always there under a layer and it just needed the right storm to bring it out. And I just never noticed it. But as a kid, I remember reading this book called, it was a book about the Civil War, and I think it was like a boy named Pink or something. It was in like fifth grade.
Mhm.
But it was a story of how this black kid in the Civil War sacrificed his life to save a white kid. And it was like, huh, and it brought up the end that at the end of the day, their blood ran the same. It didn't matter what was on the inside. And, I started to notice that as a kid, that it was like treat everybody like you want to be treated, accepting people regardless of who they were for skin color, religion, and as I got into color or gender. And I took that to heart. I was like, as long as you're not like a racist dickhead asshole, you're cool in my book, man. Like I could care less what walk of life you come from. And now I see it, and I teach kids at school who believe in removing all homosexuals from this country, who believe that only white people should be in charge of government, or believe that only
Yeah.
Christianity should be the only church here anymore. And these are kids I teach or used to teach government classes to, dude. And it's like I taught you guys the Constitution. I literally taught you what it means to have freedom of expression, and that is, it feels to me, is being chipped away.
You'll never teach them more than their parents do.
Dude, and it makes me,
That's a sad fact.
you're right, man. And it's like I try to bring that out, but it just makes me so sad and depressed, that I might edit this part out, but I don't know who's gonna watch this. I
Go
probably
for it.
won't.
Okay.
Man, I'm looking at leaving teaching just because of that. Because like it is such a one, it pay blows. First of all, if any of you are ever gonna teach, don't teach, or at least now. Um,
Come
but
teach out here. You get okay pay out here.
dude, but and then just like what I see, and kids not just like saying slurs like we did back in the day, like the R word or the F word. I do my best not to say that just because of the work I've done with education. But when we were kids, it wasn't like actually targeting people. But now, that slurs are the game,
Yeah.
realistically. It is realistically calling people for what you want to see it as. And man, my heart hurts. It does. Like the more I see it, and it just makes me realize. I told my students that I teach a class on genocide about that, at one point, Germany in the 1920s and 30s was one of the most progressive countries in the entire world for change. And that switch flipped very, very quickly. And I always
Split
tell my
eye.
students, you know, genocide is never far away, or any kind of coup is never far away when you get the perfect storm and you get the right elements that bring up what's always been lying on the surface, but maybe people are too afraid to say it.
Yeah. I've always been extremely vocal about, well, I think you will want to edit this part out, but I've always been extremely vocal about Israel.
Yep.
Since I was extremely young, I would say since I was about 15 or 16, I've been wondering why the fuck we're giving them so much of our money to the point where they have universal health care and free public university because we pay for their military. The money that we pay for their military budget would pay for universal health care, or not both, but or free public university in this country. But we just give it to them so that they can afford it. how are we not their fucking stooges? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
how are we fought, dude, bro, I fought in Iraq for Israel. It was for no one else other than Israel. Israel fucking did everything. I'm
well,
not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. I'm based in reality and I know what the fuck I know, you know?
and that's like that's one of the reasons I value you and our genuine friendship that we have formed, not just for me hearing all your badass stories, but just the conversations we have. And you know what? I'm not gonna edit this. If you're cool with it, I'm cool with it.
So cool.
Screw it,
I'm cool
dude.
with it.
But it's like when you bring up that point, I hear so many people wave that flag of, well, let's put America first, but at the same time accept Israel. And it's like,
In
realistically,
Argentina now, yeah.
yeah, it's like, well, where do we draw the line with wanting, if we're going to put America first, that means we have to put Americans first. That means we have to lower this concept of us versus them, of the enemies of the state. We got to take care of each other and see each other as people again, which, as you know, that's far from where this is going to
Yeah.
go. And like, you're right, 2026, the midterms, we will see realistically what will happen.
Yep.
And that will be for, guys like you and me realizing how much longer this has left. Our concept that we have. And like they say, every great nation has its time frame. And
Yep.
then that's where it tankers. If you look at that time frame, I think it's what, 250-ish, 275 years approximate. Um, we're right on that threshold of
I mean,
reaching.
everyone would use Rome as an argument, but like Rome was never the same. You know, they
Nope.
went from Caesars to
Dude,
Senate to triumvirate to
if
Senate
we're
to
ever seeing
Caesar.
Rome, dude,
Like they were never one government.
no.
And that's how we are going to be. And that's how every other great nation will be.
You know
Um,
what, though? This should give me an idea. We can direct a movie instead of taking Nero burning down Rome. It's a politician burning down Washington and the chaos that happens with it. Sitting on the
Commodus,
roof.
Commodus burning down Washington. That's what we
That's
got
who it is.
to.
Yeah, dude.
He builds a bathhouse where where the Washington Monument is.
I think we're on to something here.
This is Zoom, man. And my camera zoom just keeps messing up.
Yeah, I don't got to worry about that, dude. But, you know, uh, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, how did we get this far? Where what was there hope and we screwed it away? Or is this one of those things where the dominoes in the earth lined up perfectly that no matter what route we take, we end here?
Every single one of our founding fathers, and I'm pretty sure George Washington has been quoted as saying it in so many words. America is going to be badass as long as it lasts. You know, every single one of them knew it wasn't going to last. George Washington knew it wasn't going to last. He said it was going to be great until it did. It wasn't. You know, like they all knew. All of our founding fathers knew this was temporary. Um, this is a stepping stone, just like every other great civilization, until the end of humanity. You know, until we go extinct. This is going to be the par for the course. Um, there's always going to be the rich feeding off the poor. You know, every single society has always had that,
Yep,
and they have always won and stayed in power by tricking half of the poor to kill the other half of the poor.
yep,
That's what's happening right now. You know, treat the poor like the poor and treat the other half of the poor like the enemy. That's how you do it. And that's been kind of like I said, par for the course, and that's what's going to happen here, man. America, I love it, man.
same, brother.
I love what it could be. I love the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I love the Declaration of Independence, and I love the American spirit that I grew up with. It doesn't exist anymore. That
No,
American spirit, it died. If you watch that movie, you know that movie, Born on the Fourth of July with Tom Cruise,
fantastic film.
the very beginning of it, if you watch that parade at the very
Dude,
beginning,
gives me chills, man. I got chills right now. No shit.
that's what I felt as a kid being an American, man. That's what everybody felt back in the day, being an American. We all loved America. That's what these fucking stupid ass old timers are saying when they say make America great again. They want that. They want that stupid feeling. But it's not going to fucking happen. It's gone. It'll never exist again. It's gone. You know, I wish we could emphasize that to them. And they are the reason it's gone. them and their votes for putting off the taxes for the next people to deal with, putting off gas hikes for the next people to deal with, putting off inflation for the next people to deal with. They voted for this for 40 years. They voted since the 19 fucking 70s. They voted for this. You know what I'm saying? That's when it all went to shit. Like they were all waiting in bread lines and gas lines and all this shit when it was ration, and they complained about it. Now, like, dude, I go to the DMV, right? I show up at the DM, and I know I'm going on a tangent here, but whatever.
Dude, let
Like
it fly.
I showed up at the DMV the other day, and it opens at 8 a.m. Right, so I show up at like 7:15, and I get in the big ass line that's outside already. And I'm just standing there minding my own fucking business, right? I brought a book. I'm sitting there reading Marcus Aurelius, just minding my own fucking business. And all of a sudden, I just hear bitching and whining and fucking complaining. Why aren't the employees out here taking our information right now? We're all in line. They could be getting our info. And it's like they don't open till 8. It's 7:15, you know? Like 10, not even 10 minutes later. Well, I just saw an employee come out and look at the line. Why don't they just start taking our shit? They could just speed up the whole process for everyone. 7:45 rolls around. The same people complaining. Guess what age bracket these people are in?
Oh, I
They're
don't
the
have.
they're the pull up your bootstraps people. You know what I mean? They are the most complaining motherfuckers I've ever encountered in my life. God damn it. They never shut the fuck up. They're the ones who made our country into what it is. You know, the remnants of them and their kids that they raised to be their mirror images are responsible for January fucking 6th. You look at the crowd. Look at them. It's
Hmm?
them. It's all
Dude,
of them.
I had family there. I had
Ah,
family there
it's fucking
bragging about it. And it's like, first of all, if you were there and you're bragging about it on Facebook and Instagram, that's your fault. You're an
I,
idiot.
I'll tell every single one of them to their face they're a fucking traitor. They're a traitor. They are a terrorist. They like they spit on everything that I fucking swore an oath to. The Constitution, the United States government, fucking following my superiors, my chain of command, like everything about it. They spit on, dude. They are terrorists. I don't give a shit if their terrorist president pardoned them. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like any of these people,
Well,
and I never
it's,
will. I was raised by Klansmen, right? Like,
yep.
and I'm not exaggerating. Like, I'm dead serious. They were in the Klan. They burned down black churches and bragged about it. I grew up telling these people, I love you. I fucking hate that I came from that, but I kind of love it at the same time. Because I know where I came from and I know why I believe in what I believe in. That said, I know what all of them vote. I know how they vote. They don't vote for Democrats. Are you fucking kidding me? I see so many of them. Democrats started the KKK. It's like, you think Nathan Bedford Forrest would be a fucking Democrat today? Are you serious? Like, are you fucking kidding me? All of these people in my family who are Klansmen, who are racist, who say the N word regularly, who are sexist, bigots, just complete and total, like I was saying, monists, like they are sorry, I kind of lost train of thought there. But I mean, damn it. I'll let you go on.
Oh, Kevin, man. But no, you
I
bring
do that
home a
too
point,
often, man. I
man.
go on these great tangents and then I just kind of cliffhang.
Dude, it happens to me sometimes. I just,
I realize how far I've strayed from the actual point of the conversation. And then I'm like, wait, what was the conversation about? And then I'm like, wait, what was I just saying?
see, that's what I do and teach about. I just kind of keep going, and the kids just kind of keep nodding their head, and I'm like, all right, it's working. So,
Well,
just send it.
what I was saying, I think, was I know how all of these people vote, and I know who they are, and I know why they're voting for what they're voting for.
Well,
And to say that they're voting for the progress of humanity or the Constitution is just a lie.
you set up January 6th, and
Mm,
if the roles were reversed on January 6th, what would the outcome have been? What would be the outcry if the roles were reversed? It
much.
literally would be traitors.
Well,
It would have
Trump would
been.
have called in the National Guard. He did not call in the National Guard because he incited it.
Yep.
Um, if they had been on the opposite side, he would have called in the National Guard. There would have been people shot. More than the traitor Ashley Bobbitt, um, because she is a fucking traitor. She was in the Air Force. She swore an oath to the Constitution, and she betrayed that oath by storming the Capitol with a bunch of people who shit on our desks, who stole from our fucking Capitol building, who like desecrated everything there is about the sanctity of that building. It's just, man, I can go on about that, but they are terrorists, every fucking one of them, dude. Like they're just they went against everything that I have sworn an oath to. They went against everything that I thought I was fighting for. They went against everything and are going against everything that everyone in World War II died for. You know, there were like 1.7 million Purple Hearts awarded in World War II, and every one of those were awarded for fighting fascism. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, come the
You
fuck
know,
on.
you say
And it's
that
crazy that these are the children of the people who
they are.
fought World War II. Like my dad was guilty of it. You know, and this sounds fucked up, and a lot of people will discredit me for saying this, but my dad died in 2013, and I'm really glad, man, that he didn't live long enough to fall into MAGA, because he would have, and like I wouldn't have talked to him, like I wouldn't have. I don't talk to my brother, bro. Like him and his fucking his Let's Go Brandon t-shirts and all that crap. Like it got to a point where it's like, man, you're so hypocritical and you stand for everything that I'm against. It has nothing to do. Like, how much can family mean at a point where you're literally calling for my neighbors and friends and my wife to be like kicked out of the country? You know what I'm saying? Like, to be dragged to a concentration camp and then sent to El Salvador. Like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? And the thing is, they'll be like, well, your wife's legal. And it's like, well, so are a lot of the people being detained right now. There's 170 American citizens who've been detained by ICE, like in the past couple months. And ICE hasn't been around for that long. You know what I mean? Um, it's really fucked up. It's really fucked up where we're at as a country, how polarized we are. And to bring it back around to the original point, I think you asked another question since this, but to bring it back to an earlier point, I think it's really important to think about where our military will be and the next war that we're going to be in. All of the questions you've asked are really they kind of tie into this. It's so uncertain, man. Like,
It is.
how are our kids going to be used in these wars? I remember laughing with insurgents that we were taking prisoners in Iraq. And we would be joking with them like, my kids are going to be fighting your kids in 20 years. And they would look at us like, oh, I guess so. Yeah. Like, and how absurd all of it was. That's not the case anymore. I thought it would be. I thought my kids would be fighting their kids, but my kids are going to be fighting whoever Israel wants them to fight, I guess. Um, because apparently this tiny little country owns us. We send them trillions of dollars over however long, and it's just I don't get it, man. I really
Well,
don't get much of what's going on right now, and I hate every bit of it. As a constitutionalist, I hate every bit of it. I hate the lack of transparency and the lack of empathy for American citizens, the lack of respect for American citizens and the taxpayers. Um, no one wants to pay for crackheads to be alive, but I'd rather pay for a crackhead to be in a shelter for a night than pay for a new ballroom to replace the East Wing of the White House. You know, I'd rather I'd rather spend, $200 a year for welfare recipients to get a little bit of money than to send 40 billion to Argentina. I'd rather a lot of fucking things, and it doesn't make any sense that the people who are claiming to be the most patriotic in our country are the least patriotic in our country.
dude,
Oh, I remember, and Gen Z. I remember what we were talking about, and how I hate how Gen Z is falling for this. They have subscribed to this way of thinking, and I don't blame them. I blame the powers that be for their extensive research on how to influence this entire generation, on how to dupe them into thinking that Andrew Tate is a fucking smart guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's scary. It's really scary. They are the enemy. That's who we're against now.
well, dude, you bring up the duping, and that kind of goes back to what I brought up about AI, of how even this generation realistically is getting so caught up in this AI, one because they find it funny, but you can make an AI video, and if it hammers home the right points, people agree with it. And let's not ask questions, it's just it's easier propaganda tools,
Oh,
dude.
there's so many Charlie Kirk videos out right now that have been put out after he died. of stuff he never said. They're all AI videos, and they're playing them in churches right now. They're playing
Yep.
them in government meetings and shit. Like, not to mention all the violations of the Hatch Act that are going on right now. You go to the airport and you're going to hear about the Democrats making the Democrat terrorists forcing the government shut down and all this shit. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Dude, and it's like that, and it's just those words, man, those word combinations that we put together that really make me fear. And people can call me a radical, lunatic, crazy, a pussy. I really don't care. When we
I'm
when
cool with
we
all that. I don't care.
when we use words like that, it makes me fear that, I'm gonna witness mass murder in this country because of
Mhm.
how someone identifies politically.
We are
Um,
that close.
yep. Like seriously. And once I teach this in this class of how genocide can happen, and I'm like, it starts with accepted stereotypes, it starts with segregation, it starts with isolation, that then with the segregation and the accepted stereotypes leads to violence, and once you get to violence where people are willing to harm somebody else because they see them as different, that opens up the door, like you said, this right here, to where killing is not that far away. Of like, well, we don't need them anymore because we've already pushed them away, and we see that right now, man. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope on everything that is religious based, my life, and everything that I am wrong, and that I will eat those words. But I fear that I'm
Well,
not.
I don't think yeah, I really think that you're wrong, man. I hate to say it. I think it's right around the corner, and
Yep,
it's inevitable. It's been inevitable for a long time. It's just been that people that are openly bigoted, people that are openly fucking fascist, people that are openly whatever, they've never been so emboldened, as they are right now. It's crazy how em I hate to use the same word again, but emboldened they are. They've been enabled to be open about their bigotry in such a way that they are using it to like politics. They're
yep,
pushing legislation right now based off of their bigotry, and it makes no fucking sense. They're going against freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of I mean,
dude,
again, the Constitution. I'll always bring it back to the Constitution, but they are completely and totally violating and shitting all over the Constitution, and they don't care. My cousin, who I was talking to for a long time, I was able to kind of discuss this kind of shit with him because at the end of the conversation, we'd always make a joke and talk about movies or whatever was going on with his family or something like that. But it got to a point where I just couldn't anymore because he actually argued with me one time that everything that he's voted for, and he supported. He said, "I support everything that Trump has done because it is what I have voted for. All I want to do is to be able to practice my religion and live with my family in peace."
wow, crickets.
So when was it not legal to be a Christian in this
Yep,
country?
amen.
Who's knocking down your door, buddy? Like, is ICE banging down your door? Like, no, they're not. Everyone wants what you want, you dipshit. I hope he's fucking. I know he's never gonna see this because he just won't. But no, I'd seriously doubt many conservatives will ever listen to me more than like the first 5 minutes
Shit.
of the interview. But I don't think they'd get through it, man. Especially, that's the sad part is a lot of people here. That's why I never open with I'm a socialist. I don't think I said it to you for like
Nope.
2, 3 interviews.
Had to fill
Um,
out the vibe check.
well, yeah, well, not
Nah,
yes
I
and
know.
no.
I'm
Yes and no. I want to establish who I am with a person before I tell them that. That
100%, man.
way, that way, when I tell them, they're completely blindsided and they're befuddled. And I use that word purposefully because someone told me that one time. They were like, "I'm befuddled."
It's a
You know,
beautiful word.
yeah, it is. And it was accurate. I don't want them to be able to hit that switch and say you're fucking evil because you're a socialist. I want them to say, "Wait, you're my friend and I like you. What? Wait, I depend on you for this, that, and the other. Like, what am I supposed to do with this information?" I want them there because that is susceptible. You know what I mean? That is open to conversation. That is open to new information. That is open. anything else, man, they just shut down immediately. I know somebody clicked on that shit at one point and heard me say something about Bernie, or they saw this fucking shit over here and they were just like, "Oh, I'm done with this fucking guy because he's a communist." You know, like I'm not a communist by any fucking stretch of the imagination. Honestly, if we actually had a true conversation about socialism, I'm not technically a socialist because I'm an American. I don't think any American can truly be a pure socialist. I'm not a democratic socialist though either. I'm closer to democratic socialism than actual socialism, but I'm further left than democratic socialism. I don't like democratic socialism
Well,
personally. I think they're too liberal.
for anyone that does make it this far, if you stay for next week in our podcast, that's going to be a trip. Okay.
Yeah,
But, it's what your cousin said that really caught my most attention there. And I will always say that, and you know this, I love our political conversations because of the overlap. But also it's because we were friends before we talked politics. That's what I always preference to my students. But back to the point, that statement there of I want to practice my religion and I want to live happily with my family. You take those words, and that applies to 99% of our population. Dude, that's what
that's
everybody
the
wants.
world. That's the whole
Like,
fucking world.
and it's like if we can all be like, well, if I want to practice my religion and live happily with my family, but so does my neighbor, and so does his neighbor, and so does the other people down the street, why can't we do that? They have our differences, but also why can't we coexist, man?
Yeah. You
Like,
know, not everybody's religion hates trans people. Not everybody's religion hates Islam. Not everybody's religion hates, period. You know, like Christianity isn't supposed to hate at
nope,
all. Like
nope. I've read the New
I
Testament. I haven't
don't
seen
know
hate in
what
the New
Bible.
Testament.
I have no idea what Bible these motherfuckers are reading right now. It must be the Trump Bible that doesn't have the Constitution but has the three-fifths compromise in it. It must be that Bible because the Bible I grew up reading didn't say any of that
Oh,
shit.
dude.
It said, "Love thy neighbor, love thine enemy, love, 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 love." That's all it said.
Well, and it's like,
But
you
I
bring
guess
up
that's
that point, man,
mm,
of the love that is there and that concept. And maybe my brain is fuzzy. Maybe I wasn't paying attention as much as I thought I did, but it was the fact of not passing judgment on others before passing judgment on yourself first. How many of you can cast the first stone if thou hasn't sinned, or something along that lines there? And no one cast a stone because they all are sinners. And that brings up to what we're talking about right now, that if we're going to go into this concept of sin and how it relates to the end in our religion, well, all sins are the same until we get to the end. We're all going to be punished for the same. So they're all equal, at least to my understanding. So why can't we have that view? Is that okay, cool? They're living a life in sin. I'm living a life in sin, and that's fine because that's just the way things are.
because they're not sinful.
That's right.
None of them are. You think Caroline Levitt goes up there with her massive crucifix thinking I'm a sinner? Do you
Ah,
think she ever thinks I'm a sinner? Do
dude,
you
she'd
think she's
burst into
ever thought
flames if she ever
has
walked through
she
some
ever
doors.
thought that in her life? Has she ever thought I am a sinner in her
Well,
life? Has she ever actually accepted Jesus Christ into her heart? Not just said the words, but actually done it. Like,
mhm.
has
you know,
she? Yeah.
to end out
I don't think any
today.
of them even know what that means, but yeah, go ahead,
Um,
sorry.
well, and it's like a lot of our time together has been about you, and this is one of the few days where I've actually really talked about my views. And you've brought it out in me, and it's like I always tell my students, because I'll have my students ask me about my religious beliefs, and I'll talk about various religions in the courses I teach because it's world history. But I always tell my students, like, whenever, because I do still go to church now, I still struggle with my beliefs, but it's like I don't put on the front. Whatever you catch me doing on a Friday night, on a Monday morning, the language that I use, I'm the same person in church. I
Brother,
don't,
believing is a struggle.
dude,
Yeah.
like I don't put on a front to make myself holier than thou. I am a sinner by the grace of it, and that is who I am. I always will be. And I have said fuck in the church parking lot. I have said fuck in the church. I have said fuck in my classroom because that is me. That is who I am. I've never ever tried to pretend because that's not what that's about. It is about me presenting who I am. My struggles make me more human and, if anything, closer to Christ because I'm accepting my struggles and trying to better myself, not putting on some bullshit front of how I'm such a holy person. Yet, I'm gonna stop myself before I say something that I'm not supposed to say. But yeah. Well, I'll say that off camera.
I hear you, man. Hey, before we get off of here, do you want to go over a couple of these photos?
Oh, dude. Absolutely. Let's pull up one that I definitely had. I downloaded it. Oh, I gotta go to this
Yeah, I just
file.
want to take a couple minutes to go
Oh,
over
dude, we
these,
got this. This was the
because
one that
some,
we
well,
haven't gone
I
over.
shared a few more too. I don't know if
Oh,
you'd seen them.
I did not see the new shared ones. Um,
Maybe you've seen them. I don't know.
but this was gonna be our photograph of the day. I took, oh, dude, that's badass. But God, I've got so many good ideas
That's a
for the
good idea. Yeah,
podcast. I've got to
that's a
throw in
really good
there.
idea.
But our photograph of today, this one goes hard in many ways, is this one right here, and we have not went over this photograph.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard photo, huh?
It is, all right. So we.
That guy up in the top left is a badass looking dude.
So when's this photograph taken?
That is that toward the end of '05. All right. So the guy on the right, second from the right, holding the rifle. Yeah, yeah, your cursor's over him.
Yep.
That pistol belt that he's wearing, that's my pistol belt. He was on R&R and he was on his way home for his whatever 2 weeks of leave you get while if you're there for a year or more. And he didn't have any weapons, and he was like, I can't take this photo without any weapons. So I gave him my pistol belt. So he's wearing my pistol. But okay, so this is okay, starting on the far left, that's me. Top left. That is Corporal Kevin McCall. He he's well endowed, and he's a pretty badass dude. Like I mean he's really cool. Y'all would love him. So below him, that is his name. I don't know if I should out these people, but I don't think it really matters because it's the photo. But that's Shane Keller. We talk about Keller a lot. Lou and I have. Keller, he's a really fucking cool dude. When I flew back last year to Sibelius's retirement, Neil's retirement, I met up with Shane, and he and I hung out the whole time. We got a hotel together, and we drove there, and like it was really cool to reconnect. And he's like one of those guys, I hadn't seen him in 20 years, and when he picked me up at the airport, we hit it off like we'd never been apart. You know what I mean? So it was really good. The guy right next to him, and yep, that's Eric Ely. Ely is his last name. He is actually a graphics guy. He was a graphics marine. I can't remember. I think there were 4671s or something like that. No, that was video because I was 4641. 71, I think was video, 4621 maybe, or something like that. Anyway, he was a graphic designer essentially, but he was one of the best photographers I ever encountered in the Marine Corps. If you look up Eric Ely, his photos are, I mean, they're just breathtaking. Like he can catch personality and portraits like nobody's business. You could always tell he was really motivated by that. You remember the Marlboro Marine
Yeah, dude.
photo? Yeah, yeah. He took those kinds of photos,
That's
like
badass.
amazing photos. Like the dude was good at it. Above him, so him and the guy next to him, those are the Isaacs, is what we call them. So interesting story about these two guys. The guy your cursor is over, his name is Isaac Aguilar, and the guy next to him is Isaac Beretta. They're both from Chicago. They both went to the same high school, but they never really knew each other. They both enlisted in the Marine Corps at the same time, and they both ended up stationed at Lejeune together. They it's like this crazy small world story. They knew about each other, but they never knew each other until they got to Lejeune, and they were like, "Oh shit, I know you." So they grew up together essentially, but not with each other.
That's
Um,
wild.
yeah, yeah, they're both they're I know Aguilar. I'm not sure about Beretta, but I know Aguilar is from Mexico. He is the other guy.
Yep, yep, yep.
He grew up in Mexico and moved to Chicago when he was young. I remember he told me a story about how he caught a squirrel and was cooking it in the backyard, and some like people called the cops because that's not normal in Chicago when he first moved from Mexico. Anyway, all the way to the right, that guy's name is Flores, and he was from Camp Pendleton, and he was my replacement. No, 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 he was Eric's replacement. So Eric was about to get out of the Marine Corps, and he was going home early. So they sent a replacement for him, and it was Flores. So that guy, they had sent him. He's I think it's Chamoran, right? That's from
Jamoran,
Guam.
yes.
Yeah, he's from Guam, and really cool guy. Like I only knew him for like a month or two, but he's just a really squared away dude. Great photographer. I think he was actually video, but he put out some really good stuff. But this was essentially our combat camera team, except for the two guys in the middle, the Isaacs. They were both out of Blue Diamond, but they were both on their way to their R&R leave. So neither of them had weapons because they were on their way on leave. So they're both of them are holding all of our other guns. But yeah, that's why I don't have my pistol on me is because they had it. But yeah, this is just a cool photo. So that building that you see to the left there, that's actually the Combat Operations Center, the COC. And then our office was on the end closest to us. So if you look to the left, the end of the building was right there, and there were double doors on the end of it,
Yep.
and that's where our office was. So this is kind of like right behind our office. And yeah, this is at Al Assad Air Base. Those boots that I have on right there, you can see those are the ones I sent you.
Yep.
That's definitely
Dude,
them.
what'd you think? So while we're here, to end it, I sent you the photograph yesterday because I promised you, that those boots would go in my
Mhm.
classroom, and even if I live teaching, those boots will be displayed. So how'd you feel seeing your boots beside boots that have been in Vietnam? Two
That's pretty
different
cool.
generations of Marines that
Yeah.
have been in country, man.
Can you bring it up? Do you have it, or
Oh,
if it's okay if you don't?
dude, I'll find a way to bring it up. Hold on, this ain't that difficult shit.
Yeah, no, I thought it was cool as hell, man. It's neat to see legacy kind of portrayed in such a fashion. It's really neat to see it like that.
Keep
You
going with
said he
that while
was a
this uploads.
you said he was combat camera as well, right?
He was combat correspondent,
Oh, okay, okay.
but he,
Well, you need to move my boots a little further away now.
But nah, here it is. It's coming up now. Thank you to the wonderful quick actions of the internet. But right there, some books in my classroom where I've got some stuff displayed. You can see some of the books I've got there, history related. But the boots on the left, if anybody makes it this far, and if not, forget about them. Those are worn by my very good friend who is a brilliant and wonderful man, Bernie Burnson, who was a combat correspondent in the Marine Corps in 1966 through 1971 until he was medically retired. Bernie would go to Vietnam in 1967. Sorry, I grabbed a mosquito, and would eventually be wounded by an RPG in the Battle of Way City in February of 1968. And he would be retired from the Marine Corps because of his wounds. And he talked about the struggles of trying to find a job in his world of journalism, of being a Vietnam veteran. And as we can see here, the worn and used boots worn by one Kevin McCall. And the cool part of it, I didn't take a picture of him. I have to tomorrow. Is the blood type that's still written on the inside of the boot there.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, we all did that. It was by unit, but pretty much all units required that at that time.
Now, if you'll notice, I zoomed for a reason.
He's got
These
leather.
laces
Yeah.
are not regulation. So
Yeah.
I asked Bernie about it when he sent them. I said, "Hey, man," I said, "these laces aren't reg." And he started laughing. And he said, they had different boots, in their Foot Locker. And he said these boots he tried to wear only when he was like on leave or on some patrols and whatnot. He said, but he had spare boots. But he said he wanted to be different because combat correspondents, combat camera, they are a different breed of people. Like I told you in Lou, the Vietnam generation set that standard in many ways of so many oddballs that come together to create a fascinating view of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And that carries over, which makes me so happy, at least for your deployments and your interactions with Lou as well, that grouping of the oddness and the unique characters that do make combat cameramen and combat correspondents excellent Marines for documenting the history that, I so love today.
I think a lot of people won't like what we have to say, but in the long run, 20, 30 years from now, I think what we have to say is much more profound and is actual history compared to what is being said. And I kind of went on this rant the other day about how all these fucking, I'm sitting here tattooed. I don't, well, I'm one to talk, but it's a bunch of muscled up tattooed guys pushing some protein powder on fucking all these podcasts, and they all somehow are Navy SEALs. and they tell these like outlandish stories about committing all kinds of war crimes, like, oh, I slaughtered all these babies and then I did this and it was so hardcore. Buy my knife, you know? Like that's all you hear, and that's who's representing the Marine Corps. That's who's representing the military. That's who's
Yep.
representing our war fighters, our warriors, as we call them. That's what they are. We need soldiers. We need people who, while like while I was probably what a lot of people consider a shitbag Marine, I was a Marine. I was not a fucking rich kid who is pushing protein. Like honestly, that's it, man. Like I never met a Navy SEAL who wasn't some spoiled ass rich kid from some prominent family who was too stupid to go to college. I mean, that's big. That's big words. That's big words. I met a lot of Navy SEALs, bro. That's all I'm gonna say. They were all
Man,
fucking assholes.
that'll
Every
be a fun
fucking
day on the podcast. Hell yeah.
every one of them was an asshole. I know there's a lot of them that are good guys out there, and but the ones that I've met and the ones that are representing, if you're listening, the ones that are representing you guys, you need to do something about it because they're all liars. They're all fucking pushing some. They're all peddlers, pushing. They're all just a bunch of charlatans, man. I hate
Man,
that. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And that's why I'm willing to do this. Like I said, I'm a shitbag, but I'm honest.
dude.
You're not gonna get anything else from me.
No, man, and that's what I can't say it enough, man. I'm so glad that you took this gamble in many ways, especially for guys from your generation. It is hard for a lot of you guys to openly not just talk about the war, but talk about yourselves, talk about your time in the Corps and how it impacted you and molded you for good, bad, and the ugly. But dog. That's like I always tell you, man, regardless of what kind of shit we get into, and today was a damn good one, dude. I'm glad we did this the way we did it today. Thanks for your service, dude, and welcome fucking home.
Thanks for yours, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.